Hey guys, we're up in Vail, Colorado. We're checking out an amazing speed pedelec gravel grinder. This is the Canyon Grail-On CF8 Carbon Fiber 8. And it's interesting because they also have an ETAP version, which has SRAM electronic shifting, a carbon fiber deep dish wheel set, and a different color. That one is about $7,000. This one's $5,800. So it's expensive, but it's got some really amazing parts on it, starting with the Bosch Performance Line Speed motor. This bike, as you see here, is only available in the United States because speed pedelecs just aren't really available as consistently like in Canada, in Europe. But a version much like this, but with the CX motor, is available. So I just wanted to start off by pointing that out. I love speed pedelecs, and the way this thing is set up, I mean, 37.5 pounds. I mean, it's very, very lightweight. That weight is distributed really well in the down tube. We've got a Bosch PowerTube 500, and then the motor right there at the bottom, about 6.3 pounds for both of those. So the battery about 6.5 pounds for the motor. So that's excellent weight distribution and improves handling. The bike tracks really nicely. I've done some riding with no hands, and we've got this really iconic double-decker handlebar, carbon fiber, and it introduces this sort of more upright body position, especially if you're in the flats right here, holding onto the grips here. We've also got the hoods and then the drops for that really like forward aero body position. But upright is a little bit more comfortable for me personally, as someone with like back and neck sensitivity, especially if you're going off-road a little bit on kind of a gravel trail. Maybe you're in an environment where there's pavement, you've got gravel, and maybe even like some single track kind of stuff. This bike can handle it. No suspension, but we do have a carbon fiber fork, which is going to dampen vibration a bit. And then again, the double-decker handlebar right here, it's carbon fiber, and you can actually see this portion flex. And when you're riding, you really feel it. So between this rubberized kind of foam grip tape, the different hand positions, carbon fiber, and then check this out. This seat post is really cool. It's also carbon fiber, and it's kind of splayed at the top, and it's designed to add a little bit of cushion, almost like a suspension seat post. And their literature says it's designed to keep the saddle from, you know, doing a rainbow kind of pattern. Really interesting physics saddle here. It's got that opening for sort of the prostate comfort. It's a shorter nose. The bike has a fairly high standover height, but it does come in 7 frame sizes, which is amazing. It's like 2 extra small, 2 extra large. We're looking at the medium frame size. I'm 5'9", I weigh about 135 pounds, and this bike feels excellent to me, but it is a higher standover. They don't have step throughs or mid steps, just the high step that you're seeing here. So keep that in mind, especially because with this seat post here, I couldn't drop the saddle like all the way down. You know, maybe you can go to there. So I listed the minimum saddle height back at the website, along with the length, the width, standover height, all that stuff for the medium size frame, because that's what I have access to today. So want to point that out. Again, carbon fiber, the whole frame, everything is carbon fiber. I think even the crank arms. The rims appear to be aluminum alloy on this bike, but if you pay a little bit more and you get the ETAP version of the bike, that one does have the deep dish aero carbon fiber rims. They both have these hydraulic disc brakes, Shimano GRX, with the Ice Tech rotors. So we've got this carrier in the middle that's aluminum alloy, and then the carbon steel rotor with the blades and stuff. It's designed to dissipate heat. 160 front and rear, but their literature says that you could upgrade to 180 in the front, which would give you even greater mechanical advantage and just more surface area for cooling. Dual piston calipers with the fins. They're kind of like a heat sink like you'd see on a computer or something. Really cool to see those. Both of the wheels quick release. So up front we've got 100mm hub spacing, 12mm through axle, so extra sturdy, and that quick release. In the rear, they call this boost 148mm hub spacing for added stiffness and width, so you can add their optional fender. They do not sell a front fender, although I did see Boss's mounting points there, so you could get creative. And again, 12mm through axle just gives you stiffness, easier to kind of line these things up. It's what you want for sort of that off-road gravel grinder experience. It's great to see that here, but in combination with lightweight parts again, okay? So it's like beefy, it's sturdy, you might not get quite as much flex and zinging with the disc brake rotor. The spokes here, these are bladed spokes, stainless steel, black, they match the hubs. Extra parts here that are steel, that are designed to be stronger because this is an e-bike. So there is a little bit of additional weight and maybe just strain that's happening. That was something else that I was seeing as I researched this, but 28 hole rims. So fewer spokes, maybe a little bit more forgiving and lightweight and aerodynamic. Very cool to see. I love that they've got these extra little protective parts here. So we've got this metal portion and a long rubberized slap guard to protect your carbon fiber frame. Up here we've got a 44 tooth chain ring. It is narrow wide, so it's going to help to grab that chain and prevent drops, which is really nice. FSA aluminum alloy guard, and that's going to keep maybe your pant legs or something from touching that chain, and also gives you a bit of a, almost like a bash guard protection, because the chain ring does hang lower than the motor casing, which has this plastic, almost like an aerodynamic look to it. I'm going to try to get you down a little bit closer on this thing. We're in the grass, but yeah, it's like a plastic shield just to protect the motor, which is really nice. And then we come back here, GRX. This is a unique derailleur to me. I don't see it a whole lot, but it reminds me a lot of like the Dior XT or XTR. It has the one-way clutch mechanism, so you can take that off, and it's pretty loose, and that's going to allow you to service the rear wheel a little bit easier. And then when you put it in the on position, it tightens up a lot, which reduces bouncing. And that's especially nice if you're off-road with the CX motor, or in the case of the speed motor, up to 28 miles per hour. You can imagine like the bikes, there's just a lot more vibration happening and stuff. This is an 11 speed. It is 11 to 42 tooth, pretty good spread. I was surprised. If you go to the SRAM ETAP, and again, you upgrade the more expensive version of this bike, that one, it's a 12 speed, but it's 10 to 36. So this actually has a wider range, 11 to 42. Really interesting. They both appear to have 44 tooth chain rings. So I just want to point that out. 175 millimeter crank arms on the size medium. I suppose they might have 170 millimeter crank arms on like the extra small. Does not come with pedals. We just had these and tossed them on to make these rideable. I believe these are carbon fiber crank arms as well. They didn't confirm on the website, but if you look at just the material, like in the sun, I could see it look like a carbon weave. So doing my best to get you guys all the specs on this bike. 28-inch tires here and 2-inch width, so they are wider, and they've got this nice kind of gravelly tread. They are designed to be off-road, so the rubber compound they use, these are Schwalbe G1 Bite TLE, so they are tubeless easy, tubeless ready. You can lighten the bike that way and maybe run a little bit lower pressure. I have the pressure ratings and stuff back at Electric Bike Review as well, because sometimes they get kind of rubbed off or difficult to see. I'm actually seeing 45 to 65 PSI, and again, 28 by 2, so it's kind of a unique tire size. The really cool thing is that the 2XS, XS, and small, those three smallest frame sizes, they actually have a smaller wheel size. It's 650B instead of 700C on the medium, large, extra large, and double XL. So again, big run of frame sizes. Unfortunately, the three smallest, the ones with the 650B, they appear to be sold out, which is unfortunate. And I'm told that the smaller wheel size does use the same tire, which has a 50 millimeter 2-inch width. So it's the same gravel tire, gives you a lot of float and comfort. I talked to a representative from Canyon because I had several questions about the bike. They weren't able to answer quite all of them. They were very detailed questions. I'm going to do my best to get those answers and put them on the review. But for the most part, I mean, this is an impressive bike in a wide range of sizes with a 6-year warranty, and they have like a 30-day money back kind of thing. I love that they've got 2 bottle cage bosses here, so you can have 2 bottles, and this one's really low, so it feels like you could have a really tall bottle for some extra water. Up here on the bar, it says flex area, and I was also thinking, oh, maybe you can mount your phone or do something like that. We are using the Purion display, so there's nowhere to actually charge your phone off of this bike. And again, this is the PowerTube 500. I would take it off the bike, but I can't because I don't have the key, unfortunately. So again, about 500 watt hours on that battery. I love that they give you the faster 4-amp charger from Bosch. They've got this nice proprietary interface. It's a relatively lightweight, like 1.5 pound charger. It's not super tall or long or heavy. The charging port on this bike is on the other side, which just for me is a little bit of a bummer. This bike doesn't have a kickstand or even provisions to add a kickstand over there. So you're either gonna have to lean it up against a wall or you're gonna lay it down, and you usually wanna lay your bikes down on the non-drivetrain side so that the derailleur doesn't get banged up. So if we start to tip it this way, the vulnerable parts of the bike are going to hit the ground, but we kind of need to do that to see the locking cylinder right down here, which again, I'm not sure because I don't have the key. It might be AXA or ABIS, but it looks pretty high quality. And then we've got the charging port right down here, right where the crank arm is and stuff. Ideally, those would be positioned high up on the right side of the bike, but that might add weight and complexity because the wires would have to go further. I don't mean to ding Canyon in particular on this. This is just how I see a lot of companies doing it, and I wish that it was on the drivetrain side and higher. So here's the charging port right there. You can plug in. It's the same port that's built right onto the battery, so you can use that charger. You don't need any extra dongles or anything. It's a very intuitive and fairly rugged design. Like, I've never seen it crack or anything like that. So again, the charger, the battery pack, they're pretty good. It's a bottom mount battery, and you can see how close that is to the front wheel. There's just not a lot of clearance right there, but on their literature on the website, it said that they tried to move this forward a little bit so that your toe wouldn't collide. I'm guessing you just unlock this, the battery goes clink, and then there's a button and you have to like press the button to fully remove the battery. You might have to turn the front wheel to fully get access to that. Bosch does have a 625 watt-hour battery pack that's even higher capacity, but I think it sometimes requires a taller down tube to fit. And since this comes in 7 sizes, they probably went with the 500 watt, which by the way is the same for the eTap version of the bike. So I was expecting like maybe it's got a higher battery capacity, or you know, what are the differences between the two bikes? Is the display different? Those kinds of things. It really seems like it's just the drivetrain. So you pay a little bit extra for that. Okay, so coming up to the handlebar again, I wanted to activate this bike. And to do that, we just make sure the battery's charged. It's mounted in the frame as it is. And we press the power button right up here on the top of the Purion. A lot of pollen here right now. It comes on pretty quickly. It's grayscale monochrome. It's a smaller display from Bosch, but I actually like this one. It blends in really nicely, and it gives you your speed readout, battery charge capacity, which is 5 out of 5 bars right now. It'd be nice if that was 10 bars, or we had a percentage indicator, because with 20% increments, you can get down to that last bar and really not be sure how close you are to running out. Thankfully, they do have a range estimate, and we're on that menu right now. So if I press the plus button to the first level of Assist Eco, it says, oh, okay, we're up to 57 miles range. So I estimate that, you know, when this bike is like fully charged, hasn't been ridden at all, you can get, you know, 60, 65 miles of range just on Eco mode, which doesn't give you a ton of support. I think it's like 40 Newton meters, but it's pretty satisfying. Takes the edge off, helps you climb. We go up to Tour, 34 miles, Sport, and then the highest one, Turbo. Turbo, they say 19 miles, so maybe 20, 25 miles on the highest output. This is the most powerful, loudest level of support. Some of the other menus on this display, we can access those by holding the minus key. So we go from range to current assist level, and it just displays that the whole time. And then trip distance. If you want to clear trip distance, I think you hold plus and minus. And then we have total distance. So this bike's been ridden 37 miles. And then we're back to range. Now, there are no lights built into this bike, right? But if you had a shop try to wire some in, you could hold the plus button on the display, and that's how you would activate the lights. And again, it doesn't sense lights, so it's not actually doing that. There's a walk mode down here, and if you press it, it says walk, hold plus. So you hold plus, and then the bike would slowly push itself forward. It's nice if you get a flat tire or you're pushing up a steep section you don't feel comfortable riding. It takes the edge off of pushing a 37-pound bike. Which again really isn't that heavy, and throw this over your shoulder. I'm used to reviewing like the heavier full suspension mountain bikes or a cargo bike. Walk mode is really handy in those cases. And then we come back here. If you hold minus and then tap power, we can switch to kilometers per hour. That's a nice little secret on the Purion. Over here we have a micro USB port, but it's not active for charging. That's just for doing software updates. And normally the Purion would be mounted to a circular handlebar right there, but since we've got this like oval custom double-decker bar from Canyon, they had to do a proprietary mount. And I think reaching this it's a little awkward. It's like, are you up in the hoods? Are you down here? You know, I think they did the best that they could. It stays out of the way, and but it's not perfect, right? There's just a little bit of reaching going on. So I kind of feel like you get it to the right level of assist and then leave that alone. Do your shifting. Over here, we've got kind of the double blade sort of shifting, where if you push the whole thing over, you're shifting down. If you push the little one, you're shifting up to a higher gear. So that's how that works. We only have a right shifter because there's only a rear derailleur, no front derailleur. That's the case for a lot of these e-bikes and stuff. It just simplifies things. I actually prefer it when you have 11 to 42. That's a pretty good spread here on the cassette. So definitely a nice setup. The other thing I want to call out and highlight is that these Bosch drive systems, they have really good sensors. That's what Bosch is known for. They build the chips in your cell phones that, like, if you change orientation, it senses that and it flips the screen. Bosch does that. They also build a lot of sensors for like cars where it's like lane detection and, you know, the cameras and stuff like that where it knows to stop your car. They're really known for that. They build a lot of cool equipment. They partner with the best brands and they ensure their products are going to be supported for, I think, at least 7 years. So when you look at like battery replacement and stuff, I think if the motor has a failure, they just unbolt it and like whole new motor and they get you back on the trail. This drive system, the controller is sensing your rear wheel speed. You can see a sensor right down there. And then there's a spoke magnet somewhere around here. There it is. So when that magnet passes, it's doing a rear wheel speed read. And then we've got pedal cadence, so how fast you're pedaling, and pedal torque, how hard you're pushing. This thing can support up to 340% assist. So almost 3.5 times the power output of your legs. You're gonna get back up to 85 Newton meters of torque. And that's an increase. It used to be 75 Newton meters. So there's a lot of cool updates that they've done, even just through software in recent years. I believe this is the 4th gen speed motor. It's a little bit lighter, it's more compact. It's a really great system, but it does make a little bit more noise than just like the Performance Sport or Active Line motors. And you'll hear that when we do the ride test. I wanted to get a view of the left side of the bike before we take off and do a ride. I love that the cables are all integrated and the bike just looks super clean, purpose-built. It's a fun bike to ride too because it is comfortable. It's got that ergonomic, you know, between the carbon fiber, the higher volume tires, and the geometry, it feels good. This is my first time actually reviewing a Canyon electric bike. As a direct sales company, they actually don't sell through any shops that I'm aware of, and they have their own really customized packaging. So that's meant to make sure the bike arrives in great shape. And that's part of the 30-day limited warranty, which covers only the person who bought the bike, who like actually ordered it and stuff. So keep that in mind, but that's still a really good warranty. I'm used to seeing just a couple or maybe up to 4 years for most companies. Their first electric bike was launched in 2018, and that was called the Spectral On. The Grail is actually a non-electric model that they just recently converted to electric, and I think they were trying to preserve the same geometry and ride feel. What really, again, sets it apart visually is that double-decker bar. Otherwise, it seems like for the parts and stuff that you're getting here, especially with Bosch, I know this might seem really expensive to some people, but it feels like a pretty good value, and that's part of what you get with a direct-to-consumer brand. So this is the cockpit view, guys. It's pretty clean, fairly easy to reach, and I've just got to tell you how light this thing is paired with a really powerful motor. It accelerates phenomenally. It's a lot of fun, and I realize now that that oval mount is actually like a little mini accessory bar, and then the Purion mounts to that. So I believe this could be swiveled a bit if you don't over tighten it, and that could reduce glare. But otherwise, the monochrome display is pretty easy to read. Even from way up here, I know how fast I'm going and what level of assist I'm in. I'm gonna do turbo because it's kind of the most fun, and it also produces the most noise from the motor. So here we go. Very quickly outpacing this gear, but it's good for the kind of the gravel ride moment. This is what I was talking about. It tracks nicely, feels fairly comfortable. I'm sure that that seat post is making a difference too. We're climbing right now, and you know, we're going pretty fast. I'm in kilometers right now. Maybe I'll switch it to miles per hour for the folks in the United States where this bike is probably predominantly being sold, being a speed pedelec. The other thing I should mention is that that motor can support above 120 RPM, and that means rotations per minute. So if you're spinning quickly and you haven't shifted to a higher gear, which I had not because I'm filming, it's okay. The motor can still keep up with you, and that's relevant when you're climbing a lot of times because you might dump a lot of gears, go to a lower gear to ease the strain on your knees or just prepare for a climb. You don't want the motor dropping out on you. So 120 RPM, pretty sweet. Very nice. Here's some shifting, making it easier for me. If I want to go to a higher gear, it's that little lever. And the system has shift detection built in as well, so it's reading those signals we talked about, rear wheel speed, pedal cadence, pedal torque, over 1,000 times per second, and it's listening for changes in pressure that would come from shifting, and it's designed to ease off a bit, so you don't wear the sprockets, stretch the chain, or, you know, mess with the derailleur too much, because this is, again, 85 Newton meters. It's a more powerful motor. I love that they got the slap guard. As you can see that the chain has hit it. I've been riding off-road, going pretty fast, and it just protects the carbon fiber. I'm in the highest level of assist right now, turbo. I'm gonna pedal through the gears. Remember, there's shift detection. It should ease off a bit. Just want you to hear and see this firsthand. Awesome. Brakes are working great. It's really a matter of not skidding the tires more than anything. Acceleration is just mad on this thing. Love how light it is. You feel it when you start, you feel it when you lift the bike up. It's great. Well guys, that's about it. It's a really interesting bike, and there are a few proprietary components. Like if you look at here, the stem is part of the double-decker handlebar. We do have a couple spacers down here, but let's say you want like a steeper angle or a shorter stem. I'm not sure if you're gonna be able to do that without like replacing the whole bar itself. And for me, that's one of the coolest parts of the bike. By the way, this is tapered. It looks like 1 1/8 to 1 1/4 inches. Keep that in mind if you wanted to upgrade the fork or something, but I think being carbon fiber and matching so well, it's really beautiful. The coolest upgrade I can think of would be like a Loft Grit, which is a suspension fork that's super lightweight, specifically for gravel bikes. Very cool if you want to check it out. I think they have an adapter that goes to 1 1/4 inches. My goal is to be as objective and as thorough as possible. I wasn't able to answer quite all of the detailed questions I had, but please sound off in the comments with corrections or feedback. Also, electricbikereview.com. I have a comparison tool. So there's some other bikes from Bulls and High Bike and stuff. I've reviewed a bunch of road bikes, Trek, Gravel Grinder, Road. If this is sold out in the size you want, maybe one of those works, and you can use the compare tool to see what the differences are. There's also the forums there, so you can do your own review, or maybe share the accessories that work really well with this bike, or just other feedback on the battery and stuff. I'm sorry I don't have the mud guards to show you, or the key on this one, but I suspect that it's done very similar to a lot of the other power tube bikes I've looked at. But I always welcome your feedback. I appreciate it. I love you guys. I hope you have fun out there. Ride safe. We'll see you on the next one.